Okay, let's unpack this. Seriously, it feels like every single week brings another massive leap in the world of AI and machine learning, right?
It absolutely does. The pace is just, well, relentless.
New models dropping, new tools popping up, capabilities expanding, just breakneck speed.
Yeah, keeping up can feel like drinking from a fire hose.
Definitely. Trying to stay genuinely informed, getting to the why and the so what is tough.
Without just drowning in that endless stream of announcements, it's a real challenge.
And that's exactly why we put together this deep dive for you. We've taken a specific snapshot, a digest covering AI and ML updates, specifically from June 2025.
Right. We pulled out the major news, some exciting new tools, upcoming events.
Valuable resources, and one key trend that really stood out to us.
Our mission here really is to cut through the noise.
Yeah.
And pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge and insight from this specific set of sources we looked at.
You want to give you a clear, distilled picture of what was significant, at this moment in time, tailored just for you.
Think of this as your personal shortcut.
Exactly. We're aiming for those aha moments where things click into place.
Giving you that critical understanding without you having to sift through mountains of info yourself.
Ready to jump in.
Let's do it. And speaking of significant moments, June 2025 brought some pretty major model announcements. The big players definitely grabbed headlines.
Right at the top, OpenAI, they released something they're calling GPT-5 Turbo. Now, reading through the material, the focus here seems very specific.
Yeah, what's really striking about GPT-5 Turbo, based on the information we saw, is its optimization explicitly for enterprise applications.
Okay, so enterprise.
Right.
What does that mean practically?
Well, it means focusing on things businesses desperately need, like high-speed and low-latency responses.
So they're not just making it smarter, maybe, but making it faster and more reliable for actual business workflow.
Exactly. And the sources also mentioned an extended token context and improved API support. Again, these aren't just features for show. They point directly at making it more robust, easier for companies to integrate deeply into their critical systems.
Right.
This turbo version feels geared towards getting serious, deployable work done inside organizations.
That makes sense. Performance, integration, that's key for adoption beyond just playing around with it.
Definitely.
Now, right alongside that, Anthropic rolled out their Claude 3.5.
And Claude 3.5 came with a couple of points that really stood out in the digest.
Like what?
First, that substantial 200K token context capability.
200,000 tokens. Wow, that's a massive window for the model to understand and work with information.
It really is. You could feed it entire books or really complex reports. Huge for handling lengthy documents or, deep, complex conversations.
Okay, massive context. What else?
But what really grabbed my attention and was highlighted as a significant development was the introduction of on-prem deployment support for Claude 3.5.
Wait, really? On-prem? You mean you can actually run this powerful model locally within your own company setup?
Precisely. Not just in their cloud.
Wow.
And this is a genuine game changer, especially for industries dealing with sensitive data.
Like finance, healthcare, places where data security is paramount.
Exactly. If you're in finance, healthcare, or defense, where confidential information cannot, under any circumstances, leave your secure environment, well, running the AI model locally suddenly makes Claude 3.5 a viable option.
So it directly addresses those privacy, security, and regulatory hurdles.
The ones that cloud-only models often face, yes.
Okay, so you've got OpenAI pushing speed and integration for enterprise, and Anthropic coming at it with massive context and enabling security and privacy through on-prem deployment.
It seems they're clearly targeting the business world, but maybe from slightly different angles, based on what the sources described.
Feels like the major labs are really listening now.
Listening to what companies need to actually put AI to work at scale, moving beyond that initial hype cycle.
Makes sense. And it wasn't just language models making waves, right? DeepMind had a significant announcement, too, with AlphaFold 3.
That's right. We've talked about AlphaFold before. It's groundbreaking protein structure predictions.
Yeah.
But this new version, AlphaFold 3, seems to go much further, according to the material.
How so?
Well, it isn't confined to just predicting static protein shapes anymore. The updates highlighted its new capabilities in modeling complex biomolecular
Interactions, okay.
And they specifically called out its ability to model things like RNA protein binding.
Why is modeling RNA protein binding such a big deal right now? What does that unlock?
Well, RNA protein interactions are fundamental to pretty much every key biological process. Think gene expression, regulation, just basic cellular function.
Got it.
Accurately modeling these dynamic interactions is a massive leap towards truly understanding the machinery of life. It could unlock completely new insights into diseases.
Okay, so understanding interactions, not just structures. Anything else stand out with AlphaFold 3?
The announcement also highlighted its ability to facilitate small molecule design.
Small molecule design. Okay, that sounds like it goes straight to drug discovery.
It absolutely does. Being able to predict how small molecules might interact with biological targets could significantly accelerate the initial stages of designing new therapies, new drugs.
So it's evolving beyond just a tool for biologists studying structure.
And becoming a tool for chemists and pharmaceutical researchers looking to actually design interventions. It's a huge potential impact area.
That's incredible, from predicting shapes to potentially aiding in the design of actual treatments.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got powerful new models for text, powerful new models for biology. With all this power, though, you need tools to actually manage these things, right?
Audit them.
Exactly, you need guardrails. And that brings us to Hugging Face, who launched something called a SafeLM Toolkit.
SafeLM Toolkit. The name kind of gives it away. It sounds like it's about ensuring the models are, well, safe.
Pretty much. It's described as an open source toolkit specifically designed for auditing large language models.
Auditing. The material we reviewed mentioned its focus on checking for hallmarks of untrustworthy AI output. Things like hallucinations, making stuff up, and generating harmful or biased content.
So, tools to check if the AI is, going off the rails.
Precisely. As these models get deployed more widely in real-world applications, ensuring they are reliable, truthful, and don't generate dangerous outputs becomes critically important.
Yeah, you need that trust.
Tools like SafeLM are really essential infrastructure pieces for building trustworthy AI systems, especially at scale.
It's like the necessary safety layer around these increasingly powerful core models.
Exactly.
Okay, so those were the big headlines regarding the models themselves and some foundational safety tools. Let's shift gears a bit. What about the practical tools and resources highlighted in this digest? The stuff that helps people actually build and work with AI systems day to day.
Right. The digest listed a few tools that seem to fall into different buckets, depending on what you're trying to do.
Okay.
First, there are tools that help you work with the models after you've maybe decided which one to use.
Like Prompt Layer 2.0. I remember the original Prompt Layer being about tracking prompts.
It is, but 2.0 is described as an enhanced platform for LLM observability and prompt tracking. And crucially, Prompt Layer 2.0 now offers multi-model support.
So you can compare across different models easily.
Right. If you're experimenting with GPT, Claude, maybe some open source ones, it helps you keep a centralized log of your inputs, outputs, parameters, performance, essential for development and debugging.
Makes sense. And RGFlow UI. That name immediately makes me think of retrieval augmented generation. RG is everywhere.
It is. RG's become a go-to architecture for grounding LLMs in specific up-to-date knowledge stuff outside their original training data.
Yeah.
RGFlow UI, as described, provides a visual drag-and-drop interface to build those R-grade pipelines.
Oh, interesting. Drag and drop.
Yeah. It takes a complex process, pulling data, chunking it, embedding, vector search, prompting, and makes it much more accessible and manageable visually.
These definitely seem like tools aimed at streamlining development, making experimentation easier for people.
For sure.
Now, there was another group of tools mentioned that seemed focused more on running models efficiently.
Yes.
Which actually connects nicely to that trend we're going to discuss in a moment.
Absolutely. Tools like LM Deploy were highlighted. This is described as an efficient LLM inference engine.
Inference engine. So, software that helps you run the model efficiently once it's trained and ready for deployment. Get answers out quickly.
That's right. It's about getting the model to produce outputs quickly and efficiently. And what was notable about LM Deploy is its support for quantized models.
Quantized models, like INT4I, NT8 versions.
Exactly. Quantization is that technique to make the model smaller and faster, right?
Yeah, reducing precision, reducing size.
Right. It significantly reduces the model size and computational requirements, makes it run faster, use less memory.
Which is highly relevant for running models in environments with limited resources.
Or for local deployment scenarios, which, as you said, tees up the trend talk nicely.
Connecting the dots already. So LM Deploy helps you run those smaller, faster versions. What about Samlight?
Samlight is a lightweight version of Meta's popular segment anything model, SAM.
SAM for image segmentation. Identifying objects in pictures.
Right. SAM is fantastic for that, but the original model can be quite large, computationally heavy.
Okay.
Samlight is specifically designed for edge device segmentation tasks.
Edge devices,
Yeah.
like running image analysis directly on a smartphone. Or a drone.
Exactly. Or an industrial sensor, places where power and processing are constrained. You can't run a giant model there.
So tools for efficiency, smaller footprints, running models outside the massive data center. Definitely a theme emerging.
It seems so.
Beyond the practical tools, the digest also listed some valuable learning and building resources for the community, didn't it?
Yes. For anyone looking to dig deeper, get started on a project, or specialize.
What kind of things?
Well, the material mentioned resources like MedInstruct Code, which sounds like a data set perhaps for medical instruction or reasoning tasks.
Interesting.
There was also a tutorial highlighted on fine-tuning Llama 3 using QLoRA.
QLoRA. That's a popular and efficient method for adapting large models, right? Without needing massive amounts of compute.
That's the idea, adapting them to specific tasks or your own data sets more efficiently.
And Hugging Face and Llama Index collaborated on something.
Yeah, an open RAG templates project.
More help for building RAG systems.
Seems like it, providing pre-built templates and examples you can use to get a head start on your own RAG projects.
Nice.
And finally, they listed the Stanford CS25 Multimodal AI Systems course from summer 2025.
Multimodal. Models that handle text, images, audio together.
Exactly. That's likely available online and covers a really crucial area of AI research and development right now. Systems that understand and work with multiple types of data.
So many ways for people to learn and build using these new capabilities and tools.
Definitely lots of resources popping up.
Okay, so we've covered the big news on models and safety. We've looked at some practical tools and resources for developers and researchers. Let's do that deeper dive into the specific overarching trend the material really highlighted for this June 2025 snapshot.
Right. The trend that emerged clearly from the analysis was local first AI.
Local first AI, we've sort of hinted at it with Claude 3.5's on-prem option and tools like LM Deploy enabling efficient local inference. What's the core insight here, according to the analysis in the digest?
The core insight is that companies aren't just experimenting with cloud-based LLMs anymore. They're increasingly moving towards deploying these large language models locally.
Locally, meaning within their own physical or virtual infrastructure.
Yes. Bringing the AI in-house, essentially.
Okay. Why is this happening now? Why is it being called out as a significant trend?
The material we reviewed pointed to three main reasons driving this shift. First, cost reduction.
API calls add up.
They really do. Relying solely on cloud APIs for every single query can quickly become prohibitively expensive at scale, especially for high-volume applications. Running models internally gives companies much more predictable and controllable costs.
Makes sense. What else?
Second, improved data privacy. This is huge.
Yeah, we touched on that with Claude.
Many organizations, especially in sensitive sectors, simply cannot allow their confidential data to be processed outside their own secure network perimeter. Full stop.
And the third reason?
The need to meet regulatory requirements. Various industry or governmental regulations often mandate that certain types of data must stay within specific geographical or technical boundaries. Local deployment helps ensure compliance.
Okay, so it's fundamentally driven by economics, security, and compliance needs. Practical stuff.
Very practical.
Why does this trend matter so much in the bigger picture of AI adoption, according to the source?
This is where it gets really interesting, and the analysis emphasized this point.
Okay.
The push towards deploying efficient LLMs locally, and the digest specifically mentioned models like Mistral 7B and Tiny Llama as key enablers because they're smaller and more efficient. This push is what unlocks scalable AI adoption in sensitive sectors that couldn't really embrace cloud AI before.
So industries like finance, healthcare, government, defense, they need the power of advanced AI. But the data constraints, the privacy rules, made it almost impossible to just use the standard cloud models for core operations.
Exactly. This local-first AI trend, enabled by advancements in model efficiency and tools for local deployment, directly addresses those long-standing barriers.
It lets them get the benefits without the risks.
It allows these sectors to leverage the power of advanced AI models without compromising that critical control and security of their sensitive data.
And it explains why tools like LM Deploy supporting quantized models are important.
Yes, for local deployment specifically.
And why Anthropic offering on-prem deployment for Claude 3.5 was such a notable development.
It's all part of this larger practical shift towards bringing AI compute closer to the data, especially where that data is highly sensitive or regulated.
It really feels like a maturation of the AI landscape, doesn't it?
How so?
Moving from just, wow, look what this AI can do in the cloud, to, okay, how do we responsibly, securely, and cost-effectively use this powerful technology inside our own organizations?
That's a great way to put it. It's where the rubber meets the road for actual enterprise adoption, not just experimentation.
Which definitely raises fascinating questions about how organizations are going to manage that transition.
And secure these increasingly powerful models when they actually live inside their own walls.
Yeah.
It's a new set of challenges.
Absolutely. Now, just before we wrap up, the Digest mentioned a few upcoming events for those who want to connect with the community, learn more, maybe get hands-on.
Yeah, a few notable ones were listed for the near future back then in June 2025.
What were they?
There's IJCNN 2025, the International Joint Conference on Neural Networks, happening in Rome from June 30th through July 5th.
Okay.
Also, the AI Developer Summit scheduled for July 10th and 11th, with both in-person options in Berlin and online access.
Right.
And for those who prefer a more hands-on approach, Hugging Face Spaces Live Hackathon was listed for July 20th and 21st, which is entirely virtual.
So opportunities to connect with other builders, share ideas, and get hands-on experience based on all these new developments we've discussed.
Seems like it. Places where the community gathers and new developments often get shared.
Okay, so let's quickly recap what we've pulled out from this June 2025 snapshot for you.
Let's do it.
We saw powerful new models arrive.
Mm-hmm.
OpenAI's GPT-5 Turbo, with its sharp focus on enterprise speed and integration.
Mm-hmm. And Anthropic's Claude 3.5 bringing that huge context window, and crucially, those game-changing on-premise deployment options for security-sensitive use cases.
Right. Then DeepMind continued to push boundaries in biology with AlphaFold 3, modeling complex molecular interactions beyond just structure, potentially impacting drug discovery.
And Hugging Face provided essential auditing tools like SafeLM, that necessary infrastructure piece for trustworthy AI.
We also highlighted a range of practical tools for building and running AI systems.
Yeah, from Prompt Layer for robust LM observability and RAy Flow for visually building RGED pipelines,
to those efficiency tools like LM Deploy and Samlight, enabling efficient local and edge deployment.
And we pointed to valuable resources for learning and building data sets, fine-tuning tutorials, RA templates, advanced university courses, lots of stuff.
And all of this really feeds directly into that key trend identified in the material, the significant push towards local-first AI.
Right. Driven not just by technical preference, but by fundamental business needs, cutting API costs, enhancing data privacy, meeting strict regulatory compliance.
And it's being enabled by the arrival of more efficient models and these practical in-house deployment options.
Pulling together these different pieces from the digest really gives you, the listener, a focused, actionable look at what was driving progress and adoption in the AI world during this specific period.
It shows where the technology is going and why it's moving in that direction.
Definitely.
And thinking about that massive shift towards local-first AI, here is a thought for you to mull over after this deep dive based just on what we discussed from the sources. With powerful models like Claude 3.5 now explicitly offering on-premise deployment options, combined with the rise of sophisticated yet efficient local inference tools, and this overall strong trend towards putting AI compute in-house. What entirely new possibilities does this create? And perhaps what equally challenging new responsibilities related to managing and securing such advanced AI internally does this widespread push for in-house AI deployment create, especially for industries handling our most sensitive data?